My name is Harry Nelson, and I'm a graduate student here at Mississippi State. Until recently, I'd never left the United States other than a couple of brief trips over to Canada. But this past March, I traveled to Peru with a group of students from the MSU College of Business. Now, some people out there think that study abroad is just worthless. I think it's a big waste of time and money, that you don't learn anything that you can't just learn in a classroom. Those people, of course, are wrong. Take, for example, the Inca civilization, a Native American tribe who lived in Peru and probably the most advanced of all the Native American tribes. I've always been really fascinated by this civilization, and I'm sure there's classes here at MSU about South American history where you could learn something about them, but I've never taken one. I don't know that as a graduate business student that these classes would be even available for me. Therefore, my knowledge from the Inca has really just come from side notes in computer games and Wikipedia, which is my main source for new information. But even if a class were easily available, it could really only tell so much. I've seen hundreds of pictures of Machu Picchu online. I've read hundreds of sentences about it. These pictures I took on the trip myself just aren't that compelling to people who haven't seen it for themselves firsthand. The camera can only capture so much. It's not until you go there and take a look around for yourself and really take it all in that it can really click in your head. There's so much about a country like Peru that America just really ignores. I already talked about the Inca, but remember the Inca were only around for about 100 years when the Spanish arrived, yet people had been in Peru for thousands of years before that. Now, there are probably some upper-level graduate history courses that talk about these pre-Incan people, but never on a level that anyone could just go in and learn about. That's where study abroad makes the difference. When we were in Peru, we actually had the Peruvian guides mention these pre-Inca people at several different points. The Larca Museum, which we went to in Lima, actually focuses on pre-Inca artifacts. In fact, one of the Peruvian guides gave us his own perspective that you wouldn't even find in America. He talked about migrations, and in America, from what I've gathered, the prevailing notion seems to be that people all came across the Bering Strait. But he seemed to talk about how in Peru they give more credence to the theory that people came from, at least somewhat, from across the Pacific Ocean. There was a presidential election going on in Peru while we were there, and there were signs everywhere. It seemed like there was 10 million different candidates. But in the U.S., you never heard anything about it on the news. There was virtually no coverage. The only place I ever found to get any information about it was, unsurprisingly, Wikipedia, but that didn't really have that much information. It was actually going there and experiencing it, and talking to local Peruvians about it until I actually found some information out. Our guide in Lima gave us some pretty good information, but interestingly, his biases even showed through, as the one candidate he said had no chance actually came in first. The Amazon rainforest is a place that just has to be experienced. You can read about it all you want, you can listen to lectures, but the way to really learn about it is just to completely immerse yourself in it. You can't imagine how big those trees really are until you're actually staring them down. You can look at pictures of the birds that are found there, but we saw them flying around up close. You can read about caimans and how they're different than alligators and crocodiles, but you can actually see one and see the difference for yourself. You can hear about the water in the river, or you can wade right through it. You can hear the horror stories about moths laying eggs in your skins, but we got to experience an irrational fear just from that story. You can learn about shamans and their beliefs, but we talked to a guy who's in the process of becoming one. We also got to meet with a local family and get a first-hand look of how real people in Peru live their day-to-day lives. And that's what makes study abroad so important, interacting with real people. We could all live in our little ivory towers here in America and hear about how it is in developing nations, or we can go see it for ourselves. I was apprehensive, honestly, about going to a country where many people did not speak English. And I don't know any Spanish, but I dove right in, and it wasn't that big of a deal. I wound up negotiating for a crucifix and a flag from a shop owner who didn't speak any English at all, and we figured it out. Now the idea of dealing with people who don't speak English doesn't really faze me so much anymore. It was a great learning experience. The trip opened my eyes to lots of human concerns as well. The main square in Cusco was full of kids selling silly little trinkets, and apparently they're just being exploited for their cuteness, so their lazy and often alcoholic family members can just make some money, and those kids aren't getting a good education at all. On the way to Machu Picchu, we came across striking workers who were even putting debris all over the roads just so they could get notice. Now, I never really found out exactly what they were so angry about, but the issue just really underscores the social problems going on in Peru, and we never hear about this in America. Never in my life have I heard Peruvian labor issues dominating the nightly news. And it's really cliche for me to just sit here and say that the trip helped me appreciate what I have here in America, but it did. So when people say study abroad isn't important, they're wrong. Sure, you can learn something about another country just in a classroom or through random internet searching, but it's actually going there and interacting with the people that really illuminates so much about that country. It's a great learning experience and it's worth every penny.